So some just get the flow of things. You're looking at the Teichen in Yonim to bring us up to Yud Alef. Just the gist of the Maamer. So a name is Mekashe, connects the created being with the Chayitz that's drawn into it. So likewise, the Zayin Shemus, She'ein Nimchakim, if you Maisa Ani Nikra, so that's the Chibur, the fusion of Ani with Maisa, the Pula. Deeper still, it's the Machtzedek explained that Shemus, he's explaining the Baal Shem Tov, that Shemus are the Chayis of the Kelim themselves, which is a deeper Ihu than the Chayis of the Oil. Right? Keich HaGvul is rooted deeper than Keich HaVdikvul. So the Maggid says, accordingly, that when it's his Pashtus HaGashmis and his Gabrus Keich HaRuchni, like vesture of Gashmis and these Gabrus, the Keich HaRuchni, like the Ken Gadol Yom Kippur, then they can be Shem Havaya Kiksova, like it's written. Because what is happening here is a Chibur of Afachim. He's on the one hand part of Elam Hazeh, all of the restrictions that the Ken Gadol needs. At the same time, he's Ispashtus HaGashmis, so that's Nimna Nimnois, and therefore Shem Havaya can be Kiksova. So that really then leads us to the Alter Rebbe's Pirush. This is not, in no way explanation, we're just covering the ground here. The Eil of Leili Midoisav, that's Atzmos, only Atzmos, Nimna Nimnois, can cause the Chibur, and that's really the pnimius of both Pirushim, both the Pardes and the Baal Shem Tov. How is Ihu one with Bli Gvul, and how is Ihu one with Gvul? The Atzmos is both beyond Ihu and beyond Bli Gvul and Gvul. There's Mechaber with both, only Mikoich Atzmos. Melchama for Nitzachim, Mamish, that everything should be Kechevtzei v'Ritzoyna is only shaykh by the Melech, as we explained. And we shaykh everybody, but the true inyan of Nitzachim, Dafka the Melech, and Nitzachim is Mushrish, rooted Netzim HaNefesh. And the Melech is only the one, just Bekitzer and briefly, because Netzim HaNefesh is revealed, because his whole Metzias is the Am. That's only shaykh Mitzad Netzim HaNefesh. Hanosei HaKol means Etzem HaNefesh. So therefore by him is the true mitzvah of Nitzachim, because Nitzachim is Mushish in Etzem HaNefesh. By who is the Etzem HaNefesh Begoloi is by the Melech. To the degree that one is connected to the Melech, to that degree the Etzem HaNefesh is stirred. So there's no cheshbonis in such a milcham at all. And Mevaz was the Eitzeres, likewise the Maila, that's the end of Shem Tzvokos, that's pearl that Yidden should be Tzivus Hashem. It demands the Avodah of Tzivus Hashem. However, it starts off with Havaya Tzvokis, the Avodah Sanaviyim, Skafia. There's a creation, there's Biyah. The Tachlis is, like it was with Rabbi Moishe, Tzivus Havaya, that Tzivus Tzvokis is bottled to Havaya, and that's the Avodah of his Olam Atzilis, his Hapchi Chudilo, etc. Then there's the middle, the Mutza between them, that's Shem Tzvokis itself, which is even though Elam is Biyah, is the recognition of Yichud Ilah. The way it is in Atzilus. So to achieve this whole thing of the Skafi and the Avodah and the soldier in the front line, the total Nitzachim is the Bizbez of Eitzeres, coming from the level of Loi Adam and Neitzach Yisrael, because Yidden are in the Matziv, where they need Nitzachim. Therefore, to them is drawn the Loi Adam Hu Li'Nochim. That's my Melech. And therefore, no cheshbonos. And this whole Avodah is Negeya now, the end of the Vedas Berurim, when there's the Milchama of Cheirfu Ikvis Meshichecha, Cheirfu Ivecha Hashem, and then Cheirfu Ikvis Meshichecha, which is required, like the Rebbe Rashab told the Tmimim, Simchas Torah Tafer Semachalev, Kol HaYetzim Melchemes Beis David, Kaisev, Get, Christus Ishtoi, it's Masvid the Yukim of Beis David, and first get Christus, but then it leads to the ultimate Achtus, the Isabcha. There's a Meredike Sikh of the Rebbe in Parshas Kiseitze on the Holy of Gerushin. And the Rebbe explains that the Pnimius of Gerushin is a deeper Kedushin. We learn that Kedushin from Gerushin. One of the ways is of the Shtar, Ksuba, Kesef Shtar Ubiyah. Because the Pnimius, the so-called Gerushin of Eden and the Eibishter is only B'chitzonius, and the Pnimius leads to a deeper Achdus. So the get Christus leishtoit in Yonim Gashmi is only temporary. Chitzonius, Pnimius, it's Yisabche. In the end, it's Yisabche. Not that ever meant Gipshut the Isha, meant the Inyan of. But there is that element. There is that element too, but not that's for now. Certain, he's not home. He's learning. So all of that is not to cause distance. To the contrary, greater unity. It's only the mikveh, separation, to cause a deeper unity. So that's existing kedusha in the highest levels. So anyway, the bizbez oitzeres and until Mesiras Nefesh, that the king himself, that's what we're up to now. Vapizeh Yud Alef. So you just finished talking about the Sikha of the Rebbe Rashab and the Milchama in the last day against those who oppose Yiddishkeit and those who oppose the Yin of Mashiach. And Moshe Rabbeinu was Beispailos from the Mesiras Nefesh B'chalal of the Rashmad and our generation post-Holocaust, etc., and members from the Milchama, the Aveda now. So with this, we'll explain the kesher with the Mavu B'tchilas HaPerek in Letrix. It says in the beginning of this chapter, chapter 11 here, the Tzivus Havaya, Kfi shenikra Yisrael b'Torah b'mei Moshe. So this is all the connection to explaining why Yidden are called Tzivus Hashem, the time of Moshe. Even though what our Avodah is Havaya Tzvokos, our Avodah is in Biyah, our Avodah is with the real Yitzhar, a real world, a real enemy, as Hashem has created it for us. So what's the connection to Tzivus Havaya? That's been Moshe Rabbeinu. Even though we're not at this Madrega, that's where Tzvokos is bottled to Havaya. It's Yichudi Ilah, it's Atzilus. We're not even at that intermediate level of Tzvokos itself, where he is, meaning the Gemara says in Chagiga, it's two words. Oiso, he stands out in this Tzava, which is should be beyond Nasa Kamei Batzilus, that in Biyad is he's driven, understands the way it is in Atzilus Yichudi Ilah. The reality. He doesn't walk around with that perception. But rather our Avodah is biyad, as it is in the experience of biyad, into this world. A guf and a yitzhahara and a and all of the taivas and yitzhahara, it's real. And it's not transparent. Nonetheless, because to achieve this in the throes of iskafia, yeshna in the bizbus oiteres. Everything is given to us, was nasim kol yonim anal, and that then leads to and lifts us away from the lamata lamailo in the tzvokos. First the avodas alavim and the vim, which is oisa b'tzovet delay. And then the next level oisa b'tzovet the tzvokos itself. So he's simply saying that even though we are at the lowest rung, as it were, and fighting the battle at the most corporeal and concealed level, to us is given the bizbus oitzeres that lifts us, that is rapidly to the avodah of tzivus havaya, b'mei Moshe v'yichudi Ilah of atzilus l'peil here in this world. Is hapcha. Binyan Bezeni elaborates now. So how do we achieve the victory? Hashem comes to our aid and gives us all the oiteres, so that we're gathered and collected, generation after generation. That's the lashon of the Friedrich Rebbe. Well, lashon deirach hadoir. Why deirach hadoir? You can say doires, generations. He emphasizes too because he's alluding to the pasuk we talked about in the previous ois. Shal derech shebelum hazeh yashing deirach hadoir mecharev. The Gemara says if you see generation after generation mocking, then look out for Mashiach's steps. And he explained that is the mocking of Yiddishkeit Bechlal and the mocking of Emunah and Bias and Mashiach specifically. So then asks Gamba videos hard and by official business oitzes. So we get the business oitzes above. So likewise we get that. What's the gun? Well, we don't have oitzes. We get them from above, but it means that we use it all. We use it also a way of bizbuz, without cheshbon. We get without cheshbon, so we use it without cheshbon. So the midas hanetzach, yeah, well, as you're saying, it's our own midas hanetzach that is stirred by all this, that is rooted in netzim hanefesh, comes to the fore. And therefore, the person's in its all-out victory, like the Melech himself. Maimid besakon, that's called in Yonah of Eitzreisov, yeah. So on a personal level, he puts into danger all of his matters and all his Eitzres. He would never show them, he would never squander it. So what are these things within the person himself? This is the avodah that he himself achieved. This is my God, and I will exalt him. And also the treasures that his forebearers amassed. Huh? He's the Keli, my God. It's my effort. So all of the avodah and the non that he's achieved personally, this he gives away for another year, Tosha. And then the Eitzeres, the treasures that he gets from his forebearers. The second part of the pasuk, the God of my father, and I will exalt him. Anveya means I will glorify and exalt him. So he gives everything over that he has, his personal resources, the resources that he's received, the treasures from his forebearers. Pasha puts himself in Mesiras Nefesh. He's ready to give up everything. Elam Haba, Gan Eden, Vad Gan Eden Elyon. That's the life of his soul. He's Gan Eden Elyon. The Neshamas are hewn out from below the heavenly throne. What's that? Showing Gan Eden Elyon. That's Gan Eden Elyon. And he disregards all of this. It is known the beer. This is from the Tzemach Tzedek. It's brought in Hayom Yom of Erev Yitzis Kislev from the Alter Rebbe, that don't be like a servant that serves for reward. We don't just mean reward this world or the next world. The Koy Gam al Tzchara Yisrael Elyon. This refers even to the most lofty reward. Shenikra Gamkin B'Shem Pras. It's also called reward El Avidos. He doesn't want any of that. The Mishnah says, don't serve God for that. But rather, the Mila B'Shemayim, who's for me in heaven, that which is with you, I don't want on earth. These two levels of heaven and earth are the higher levels, and the higher and the low levels of Gan Eden. Ketera said, the Rebbe says, I want nothing. Gan Eden. I don't want your paradise. I don't want your will to come. I want you alone. This is higher than Chaya Nafsha. Chaya Nafsha is a Gan Eden Elyon. Doesn't want it, only the Eibishter, in the words, your will. Pardon?
What does it mean he's Mevatel on this? It's something that happens with default, no?
But it's not what motivates him. He doesn't want it. And moreover, if another Yid needs it, he gives it to him. There's many stories. The Baal Shem Tov, they gave up his Ilam Haba in order to give a bracha to a person to have children. What does it mean for us? It means for us that it's just not our. It's not on our radar. But there is the emes. There is an inyan. There is an inyan that a person can give. His chosim to another. If he means it sincerely, he can give it.
It's not saying you should compromise your own Yiddishkeit.
Not your Yiddishkeit, your reward. But there is a compromise of Yiddishkeit in the sense that the time that's spent on his own learning and davening and advancement, he's with another Jew. He could live in a metropolis with his yeshiva and a kollel and a pizza store in the corner, and he goes and lives in a place where there's no mikveh, no pizza store, and he doesn't have malav base. That's giving up his Yiddishkeit. This world, next world. Dovi called me. I'm not going to tell me a story. He was just saying, so I called him, thanked the shluchim that spoke for us. Can't believe him said his nefesh there. But this guy, Pasha, Mamish lives with the Rebbe and is nisim at every turn. Despite the enormous hell and Vester over there. And that a kid, the vision, it's a kid. Don't envision it. I told him, Aaron, you're listening? You're there. So I said to him, one of the Chevra, I actually want to get him again to Fabring with us. It's really. So I said, well, they want to know that how did your family react to becoming a Lubavitcher? That's number one. And then going on Shalichus to Chengdu, China.
His grandfather's Lubavitcher. His grandmother.
She married not a Lubavitcher, and he grew up in Visionitz. So,
Rosenberg.
The Lubavitcher was hovering in the background. He had to pay his. He didn't hear a story how he became a Lubavitcher. He was on the. Chaim, you heard? What?
Yes.
Chedesh Elul, on the way to the Kreisel, he has a Fabrengen, Simcha, Chedesh Elul, beautiful story. Anyway, so I asked him, so he says to me that the problem was with him from his family. The problem was from his wife's family, who were there card carrying Lubavitchers. They said, okay, Shlichus, but you have to go to Chengdu. You can go to Queens or Manhattan. He says, my family said, okay, you signed up for Lubavitch. That's it. Your decision. Lubavitch is Shlichus, Mesilas Nefesh. So they accepted Chabad. He didn't tell me that story, how that happened. I guess family helps or whatever it was. They saw he didn't become Fry. He was still keeping Shabbos, still a Shabbos. They made peace with it. And for them, they understood. Becoming Lubavitcher, Mishagoyim. There was already no Chiddush. But it was his Lubavitcher family. He said he got the resistance. And his wife is amazing. She's ready to go anywhere, only one condition. She'll be hot water, running hot water. She wants to take a hot shower.
Cold water is a dirt shishi.
Huh?
Cold water is a dirt shishi.
Not too many in the dirt shishi were jumping into cold water, trust me. Not too many at all. I did. We went into the mikveh then. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue. So there is as you're pointing out, there's the oitzas milamayla, but has to be poil, that whatever is precious to him is completely devoted to the milchama. Devoted to the milchama. He shares it, he gives it, squeezes out everything he has for another yid. So this thing, the mevaz was called oitzas milamid b'sakana chaya nafshe. And he puts himself in danger. I used to never speak also, shlichus, going to a place, there's no infrastructure, no chinuch. Sakana. Certainly mitzad the seichel. And he does this all in order for the war to overcome, to defeat the enemy. These words. It doesn't matter what the opposition is. When it's all or out, it's everything. The Eibishter's desire is that every nakuda ve'elam hazeh of this world of another yid be suffused with alikus. So there's any, there's one place in the world that a yid, and then it's all for nothing. And so he's relentless. But in Avodah, there's also so many levels to this. It's not just for the main things of Yiddishkeit, that's where the war is. Not only just positive mitzvahs, mitzvahs from Divrei Sofrim, and not only midrabanan, but diktakal from Divrei Sofrim, and not even a minor nuance of the midrabanan, like hidur, anything like a minik shayidei she'einzek kefiratzneil, and he knows this is not what the Eibishter wants. But Melad is in menagya, therefore it's in opposition. Al ratzneil as a Maamer b'sakon is called mitzius. He goes and Mesiras Nefesh that this should be the way it should be. Let me just say an extreme example, but the Ashishi was sending my mother's generation, sending the kids to school on Shabbos. So they walked, they didn't carry, they didn't write every day, but still, not the Rotz and the alien. So they didn't send their kids, and they put lives in danger, arrested, who knows what. That's how it was then. And what's he putting into danger? Not only is the guf and the v'shabamis, but gamis eitreis of yikorim, his precious treasures, yikorim mikol yoker, precious beyond precious. Adachayim nafshe, he gives up his nefesh, adachayim nafshe likis, giving up the life of his godly soul. This is total and absolute. Mesiras Nefesh. Rebbe says, what? For anything which is not Kfirotz and Alien. How could he do such a thing? Because he gets the krech, it's not him. Heaven has squandered its oitzeres, her oitzeres, and therefore it's megala by him, that's a nefesh. The Eibishter comes to aid him, helps him. Since we need this great war, it's the final battle. And here, what's demanded of him? He's asked to Mesiras Nefesh, even his godly soul. So what kind of help does he get? He gets the all-out help from above. The most precious treasures that heaven never revealed are now given with unlimited way to everyone. And explains in the Perek the Seder. Seder Bezehu, the order is it's kind of a Seder. This element is the Torah Kedim, the Tikkun. What's the Seder? The Beis HaMilchama Peschem is Eitzes. When Neisem Meisem Adi Yisod Yapkidim, so the king opens the treasures and is given to the officers. Shepkidi Achoyel, the officers over the soldiers. The Kavan is the point is them. Shehem Dafka Isinis and Nitzach, they bring the victory. Who does the actual victory? Is it the soldier on the front line? These are the soldiers. By the they're getting help. It's the Rebbe, he's saying. These are the officers. Adla Roshim Varosh the head of all the officers, like the Nasi, the Rebbe. So the Melech, the Eibishter, the officers, the Rebbeim, and the foot soldiers, that's us. The help comes from the Rebbeim, but the Bizbus Eitzes is for whom? It's for the soldier. Shemika Ratzova, they're the main army. And to them, the Eitzes were given. That's how they achieve victory at Shabboim, the Tzivus Havaya, till they reach the Madrega of Tzivus Havaya of Moshe Rabbeinu of Yishapcha. B'mei Moshe. This is echoing what the Rebbe said in the first Maamer, the first Fabrengen, right? It'll help you Can't don't hold anything back, he says. But what's going to help if we're saying Nanigen and we'll give Ksavim and we'll say L'chaim? If we on the ground don't do what we have to do. So we have everything we need, but gotta use it. I'm just reminded, we're not shluchim on the front line like others are in this way. But it was here was a Shabbos Sheva Brachas of which Simcha when was the Farkashes were here. Barry Farkash was here. If you remember Barry, he used to give shiurim here in the summer when he first got married. He married the Zions. He's on shlichus in Seattle, Sequina, I forgot what it's called. Chaim, what's it called? Chaim left. Anyway,
Issaquah.
I'm sorry, Issachar, yeah. A cute boy, big Talmud Chacham, like all his brothers. And he was reminding me because I have kids in shlichus there in Seattle. Chaim has a son in a little suburb of Seattle. So I'm far from the place, and it's one Jew at a time. You're not busy all day. And here, the big city, there's a lot of you're waiting for the moment and planning. So he says he's like the soldier. And he says because on shlichus describing himself, the soldier in the trenches. And he's waiting and waiting, and it's muddy and it's raining, whatever the conditions, the trenches. And it's awful. Comes the one moment, fire, and do what you got to do. But he's staying there waiting and waiting and waiting, on guard every moment, high alert for this one moment of the battle. The emphasis it's every moment, but he was just bringing out these places. It's not in the same literal way. How many shurim can you give? You know. Let's go further. Let's finish the perek. Oz nasa geminyan that the netzach sebinyan Yerushalayim says in Medrash v'lachashim agdula v'agvura v'netzach. Yeah, so netzach refers to building Yerushalayim. In other words, this avodah brings to building Yerushalayim. It doesn't mean that the Beis Hamikdash as it was, Yerushalayim as it was the time of the first Beis Hamikdash, Beis Hamikdash Hasheni, or the second. That wasn't eternal then. Netzach Zebin Yerushalayim, it's referring to the final. There was the Churban, Lakavon Yerushalayim Kefishati Beis Hamikdash Shlishi. We mean here the Netzach. It's a Medrash. I'm sorry, Barachas. Marim Barachas. Netzach Zebin Yerushalayim. It means the in Yisrael Shlishi. Shibane b'mehede v'yameina the Mashiach Tzedkenu, they build very soon. Mashiach Tzedkenu. Shazia Netzach Zebin Yerushalayim. Then there will be the true victory in eternity. By from Nitzchi, by from the process, Teishi Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim will be open, as the Gemara says in the word Tzidkas Pirzoin to be Yisrael, as we explained earlier. Shein Tzedek b'Chaim, but not need for a wall. Kivim Shein Mitzir Shemenaga. There won't be an enemy. That's already the Madrega of Tzivis Havaya. Of Yechudi Yelol Lamata. The world is not independent at all. It's bottled to Havaya, Elohut Tzova. It's all the hosts, all of existence is Tzova. It's a kind of Tzova Shetov full of bottle Havaya. Okay, conclude the Maamer tomorrow and then give an overview.